Hello, Brian Gleis here from the Scott Insurance Agency with another Survivor podcast. Survivor was one of those shows that my wife and I never missed back in the day. And in this podcast, I want to help you outwit, outlast, and outplay the insurance companies. Today's topic is flood coverage. Now, flood coverage is something that we hope you never need, but it is a very specific coverage. A normal homeowner's policy does not come with flood coverage. One of the things that we need to do is to understand the definition of flood coverage. And that's when the good Lord gives us too much rain and too much water and it ends up in our house. What flood coverage is not is sewer backup. Sewer backup isn't considered groundwater that comes into the foundation and things like that. Now, it can get confusing. Sewer backup is not automatically covered on a homeowner's policy either. But at the Scott Agency, we put it on every single one of our policies unless you tell us to remove it. And then we make you initial next to it because we feel that it is that important of a coverage. But flood coverage has been very interesting over the past 5 years, I would say. Mother Nature has been particularly cantankerous, and we have seen water get in places that have never had water in it before. And the phone call comes in and it says, hey, I've got water in my basement or wherever. Am I covered? And the answer would be no. Flood coverage is a government-operated insurance that we do provide our clients through different outlets. Typically, the only people that are going to buy flood coverage are people that are in a floodplain and their mortgage company is mandating that they purchase it. But with Mother Nature throwing water in where it hasn't been before, FEMA has opened up the flood policies and have created flood zones that have lower cost premiums for people just like you to purchase in the event of a flood. So FEMA has said, we understand that there is some water in some places that would not normally be categorized as a flood zone. So we're going to provide you the opportunity to purchase the insurance at a slightly lower rate. Now, the manual for flood insurance is nice and thick and hard to understand. But the biggest thing that I want to get across to you is flood is not a standard covered peril. There's one company out there by the name of Auto Owners, and they have what's called limited flood coverage. They're the only one that I'm familiar with at this time that offers that. It is not a full-blown flood policy. However, it is coverage that can be added without putting on a separate program through the flood government program. Sorry, that was confusing. I'm a professional insurance agent, not a professional podcaster. But once again, the only time I typically place flood coverage is when a home is in a floodplain and it's mandated. But we want to understand because it catches people off guard. So what happens to you when there is a flood and you don't have coverage? I want you to mitigate the water as quickly as possible. As a matter of fact, I would prefer, depending on how large the issue is that you contract with a professional that will be able to come in with the correct tools, that have the proper suction power, that have the dehumidifiers, that have the blowers, that can mitigate that water, make sure there's no mold growth, because that's a bad thing. It can get people sick and those types of things. But in most cases, if we act quickly, the carpet or padding or whatever it is can be saved, can be dried out, and can be cleaned. Now, that doesn't mean that it's inexpensive. So whether or not you purchase flood insurance is completely up to you, because I know there's never enough money at the end of the month with everything else that we've got going on. But the key thing is flood is not a standard coverage on your homeowner's policy. Know that. Spread the word, calculate the risk of what's going on. There's some things that you can do to help, guys. I know I bought some sensors on Amazon. I know Montgomery Hardware carries them, but they're just little sensors that you can put on your floor. Not in, you don't have to bolt it down or anything. You just put it on your floor and they will alert you when there's moisture on your floors. You might put that underneath the windows in your basement. For me, you might put it around your water heater. You might put it around your air conditioning drain system. But by placing these in areas in your basement that are prone to flood, you will get an alarm, an audible alarm, so that you can get on it fast and before it's too late. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, is what they always say. So, flood insurance, don't let it catch you off guard, because it's a bad day when it does. That's it, guys. This is Brian from the Scott Agency. If you find this information helpful, please pass it on. Please share it with others and tell them about the Scott Agency. Thank you very much. This is Brian Gleis with your Insurance Survivor podcast. Bye-bye.